In this video, we will show you how to replace your harmonic balancer. Let's get started. Okay friends, let's get started on our job. The first thing we want to do is make sure that the engine and the cooling system is cool to the touch. Make your way over here to the cap on the coolant reservoir. We'll turn this counterclockwise and slowly lift it up and away from our face, releasing pressure from inside of the cooling system. Once you've done that, we can put this cap back on. Move along to this hose. Use some pliers, squeeze the clamp, slide it down, remove the hose from the reservoir. Give it a quick check, make sure it's still soft and pliable and it's not torn, worn, or damaged in any way. The next thing that we'll do is remove the one 8mm headed mounting bolt that holds the reservoir to the fan. Continue on by lifting the reservoir up and off of the fan shroud and twist it, setting it off to the side. Continue on over to the driver's side of the fan shroud. You'll find that you have your power steering reservoir with one 8mm headed bolt. Remove the bolt and set this aside as well. Underneath where that reservoir was, you'll find a wiring harness that leads to the fan. Right where my thumb is, there's a rectangular squeeze tab. Squeeze that in and separate this. Once you have it apart, give it a quick check for corrosion and then set it aside. Now, if you were to look underneath the upper radiator hose, you're going to find that there's an 8mm headed bolt holding the fan to the radiator. Remove that 8mm headed bolt. Once that's out of there, make your way over to the other side of the fan and remove that 8mm headed bolt as well. Just underneath that mounting bolt, you'll find an area where your two transmission cooler lines are held in place to the fan shroud. Carefully separate that. Make your way back over to the driver's side. You'll find that there's an area where wiring is attached to that fan shroud. Go ahead and pop that out of place. Now let's reach down to the bottom of the fan shroud. You're going to find that you have your lower radiator hose. Go ahead and lift that up and pull it away from the plastic bracket. Now let's reach down into this area, grab onto the fan assembly, give it a little wiggle while lifting it up. Carefully remove it from the vehicle. The next thing that you are going to want to do is pay attention to your serpentine belt routing. You'll find that it goes over some pulleys and it makes its way around the backside of others. Just make a quick note of the direction and the route of the belt itself. Once you've done that, we'll continue on to the serpentine belt tensioner. Up along this area, you'll find a squared out notch. You can fit a 3/8 drive extension in there and carefully turn this clockwise to release tension from the belt. Once you've done that, carefully remove the belt and give it a quick inspection. When inspecting the belt, you want to make sure that you do not see any cracks inside the grooves. And along the backside, make sure it doesn't look like it's worn or damaged in any way. This one looks perfect. We'll set it aside. Now we can start removing the harmonic balancer from the area. In the center of it, you'll find that you have an 18mm headed bolt holding it in place. Remove that bolt, give it a quick inspection, and set it aside. The next thing that you will need is a crank pulley removal tool. It looks like this. It's going to have a driver in the center that goes up against the pulley shaft. You want to make sure you have a flat base so you do not damage it. And then if you were to look at the harmonic balancer, you're going to find 3 holes with threading that you can put your 3 mounting bolts into, making their way through the center of these holes. While you're setting up your tool, you want to make sure that you have it as level as possible for the removal process. Once you have the tool as level as possible with the harmonic balancer, continue on by driving in the center. When you do this, make sure you use a hand tool. Never use an air tool for driving this in. Remove this from the vehicle. With the harmonic balancer out of the way, It's important to make sure you clean and inspect the seal that goes around it and the shaft itself. We'll just wipe this down with a clean rag, give it a quick inspection. Okay friends, let's get ready to install our harmonic balancer. To do that, you want to have a balancer installation tool. Looks like this. Make sure that the far end of it can screw into your crankshaft. The way that this is going to work is you would take it and put it through the harmonic balancer and then screw this into the crankshaft. Once you've done that, line up the harmonic balancer on the crankshaft and gently start pushing it in. You can tell how it needs to line up with the crankshaft by this slot right here. On the shaft itself, it will have a little tab that protrudes out so you can make sure you align it properly. Before you install your harmonic balancer, it's important to make sure that you use some sealant along this area right here. I'll just use a little bit of gasket maker. Slide it right inside that slot. Let's take this and put it in position. Just rotate it until it feels like it starts sliding on a little bit. There we are. Once you have it lined up with the keyway, continue on with your tool. We'll put this in position and snug it up. Once you have that on there, continue on by tightening the larger nut. This is going to be the area that presses up against the pulley itself and drives it in against that shaft. Now we'll continue on by turning that center nut. Once it feels as though that nut is bottomed out, just pay attention to the pulley itself. You should find that it's very close to the engine timing cover. Shouldn't be touching in any way. Assuming that looks good, continue on by removing your tool. Now that we have the pulley on there, continue on to taking your mounting bolt. Apply a thin amount of engine oil. Let's take that and put it in position in the crank. Bottom this out, and then we're going to torque this to 89 foot-pounds. The next thing that you're going to want to make sure that you do is use a strap wrench of some sort. We're going to have to hold the crank still while we continue trying to torque this. Now once you have that torqued, go ahead and loosen this bolt one full turn. At this point, we'll continue on by snugging this one last time. Torque it to 37 foot-pounds. After you torque it to 37, continue tightening it an additional 90 degrees, or quarter turn. Now it's time to install our serpentine belt. Let's take this and put it back in position in the same orientation as when we first removed it. We'll start with around the crank pulley. Once you have it around there, take the back side of that belt and put it around the water pump. At this point, we'll bring it straight across over the top of the tensioner and then down underneath the AC compressor pulley. Once you have it around there, continue on up to the idler pulley. And now we can go back over to the other side of the belt. Bring it around the power steering pump pulley, making sure that it's sitting in all of the grooves properly. At this point, you're going to want to hold tension on the belt, grab your 3/8 ratchet with the short extension, and loosen the tension with the tensioner. After it's on there, just double check to make sure it's sitting inside the grooves on every single pulley. Let's carefully take our fan assembly and slide it into position. Now once we have that going down into position, pay attention along each side of the radiator. You'll have the area where your mounting bolt needs to be, and then directly below that, you're going to find that you have a hook on the radiator. The fan needs to slide down into that hooked area on both sides. Once it's in position, start in both of your mounting bolts. Once you have the bottom in there, continue on to starting in both of your mounting bolts and snug them up. That one's nice and tight. We'll do the same on the other side. Now let's have a look down along the bottom of the fan. Go ahead and put the lower hose back into its original position. Let's slide this in. Let's put on this plastic piece. Line that up so it's centered and press it down. Reconnect in your fan assembly. Listen for a click, give it a tug to make sure it's secured. Continue on to your power steering reservoir. You'll notice in the fan shroud, you have a slot right here, and on the bottom of the reservoir itself, you'll have a little nub that protrudes down. Should fit right into there. Line up your mounting bolt hole. After that, go ahead and snug it right up. Now we can continue on with the coolant reservoir. Down along the bottom, you have the area that protrudes down. Just underneath that, on the fan itself, you'll have an area for it to slide into. Let's get that lined up and slide it down into position. Let's get this hose on here. Install your clamp. Okay friends, we've got the car back together. At this point, go ahead and take it for a road test. Make sure the car does not overheat. Aside from that, thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.